here. We're going to talk about advanced care planning this morning. Live with me in the studios, Dr. Maggie Clifton, who is Medical Director for Home Health and Hospice at ECU, and Scottie Gaskins, who's the Senior Administrator of Population Health at ECU. What is population health?
Oh, that's a whole other segment, Henry.
Can you give me a 15-second answer, or is it longer than that? Population health.
Well, you know, our population is a whole lot more than just the patients we see in our hospital.
Yeah,
and, you know,
right.
Population health is how we wrap our health system around taking care of our whole community.
Yeah. So, Dr. Clifton, what is an advance directive?
That is a really good question. An advance directive is a document that explains your wishes when you're not able to answer questions yourself. So that's a healthcare power of attorney and a living will. So they're legal documents that you fill out that would answer questions for later in life.
Yeah, I mentioned I just went through this with my mom, who passed away in January, and we had all that stuff straight, but it's still, you know, you still have to make sure it's there. I mean, who needs one? I mean, at what age do you start saying, okay, it's time to get a healthcare power of attorney, it's time to get a living will and all that? When should we start thinking about that?
So I think that people think, oh, I only need a healthcare power of attorney or a living will as I age. So we tend to think about these for the geriatric population. So when people are in their 70s or 80s or 90s, but I'm here to really push back against that. I think at any age is the appropriate time. I'm 34. I have a healthcare power of attorney and living will because we don't know what will happen. And the one thing I can tell you is that life is really fragile. And it's really important to have these documents in place at any time in your life, to be honest.
I actually think I actually did mine in my 30s. I think when you get children, right? When you have children, you need to start making those kind of decisions. Scottie, once you've got the advance directive, tell us how it all works.
Yeah, so keep in mind that advance directives are legal documents, so they do need to be witnessed and notarized to be formally executed. But a lot of people make the mistake of tucking them away somewhere, and no one in their family knows where they are. Maybe they've never even had the conversation with their family about what's in those documents, and that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to make sure your doctor, your family members, whoever you name as your healthcare power of attorney, which may or may not be a family member, depending on what you choose, has a copy of your documents. You have a conversation with them about what's in there, what your wishes would be if a decision has to be made. Keep in mind too, Henry, that these documents only come into play if you are unable to communicate for yourself.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm sitting here listening and thinking about that. You know, fortunately for my mother, she was lucid enough until the last 4 or 5 days to make decisions, you know, and she was asked, do you want more morphine? And she would say, she originally said no, then she started saying yes.
right.
So, you know, we were fortunate in that we didn't have to make any major decisions. She made them. She knew what was happening, and she knew that was going on. Now, what happens if somebody does not have these advanced directive documents like power of attorney and living will? What happens to them?
Well, there's a whole hierarchy of decision makers according to the law. And again, it may or may
You're going to have some lawyer making a decision
no,
for your family?
it still points back to family if you have family, but a certain order of family. And again, that doesn't always correspond with who you might want to make the decisions for you.
Or the decisions of the person that's passing, right?
That's right.
You know, you want to make sure they have that decision,
right.
that they choose who they want to make that decision.
I'll tell you, Henry, I too lost my mom about the same time you did in December. And my family was so blessed that she had advance directives in place. We actually did them together long before she got sick. And unlike, you know, your mom, who I think had a fairly short, you know, end of life period there, my mother's was 5 years. And so for a healthcare agent, you know, for my sisters and I who had to serve as healthcare agents for 5 years, it was really important to us that we knew what she wanted. We were able to honor her wishes for a long period of time, and it made a world of difference to us even after she passed, that we had peace of mind that we did what was right for her.
Well, God bless you, because you know, we had a 19-day hospital stay, and she was not sick before that. So we were lucky. Sounds like you weren't. My condolences to you and your family.
You too.
All right, Dr. Clifton, as a hospice provider, what type of situations do you see that would be better if the patient does have an advance directive?
So I'm going to mention two situations I'm really glad that y'all had these for your parents. But to be honest, I think that the situations that would be best served are really sudden and tragic situations. I think the most difficult conversations we have are people who weren't expected to pass away. Some tragic event happened that was really unexpected, whether that be a car accident or a massive heart attack or a stroke. Their families aren't aware of what their wishes are. They haven't identified someone that they really trust to make their decisions. And again, the family's in shock because this wasn't an expected outcome. So I think those conversations are much more difficult because, especially in young people, my most difficult situations have been in people my age because, again, no one expects for a 34-year-old mom to pass away, but it happens. So I think having those conversations early when you have kids, that is really impactful. And then the other one is when you have a really large family. My mom was one of 6, and so there wasn't a healthcare power of attorney. And so we talked about a hierarchy. And the issue is if you are a mom and you have 6 children and you haven't identified, well, legally, the responsible thing to do is to talk to all 6 children. And what you can expect is sometimes there's not an agreement.
Right, yeah.
And so I think it's better in large families or really in any family to identify someone that you, again, have communicated your wishes and desires to so that when it comes down to it, your family knows and they don't have the guilt of making that decision for you. And there's also not guilt in between other family members like this person chose this for my mom and I didn't agree. The conversation is my mom chose this and I know that because she identified that early on.
Right. Good information. How do we find out more? Is there a website or any kind of information available that people can come to?
Absolutely. So ecuhealth.org/advanced care. There's a free advanced care planning toolkit available to everyone out there, and it includes a simple form of the legal documents that you can fill out.
Oh, great. So you can actually get the form right on the website.
You can download the form right there on the website. We also have a lot of free events that we do throughout the year, not just this month for Healthcare Decisions Month, where we provide assistance to people to understand the documents, to help walk them through completing the documents, and even to provide a free notary to complete
Awesome.
the legal
Great.
step of
That's
the document. We'll even scan it right into your electronic health record while you're there.
Oh, that's great.
You can find those
That's
events
great.
also on the website.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Thank you both for being here. If people missed any of this interview and want to hear it again, it'll replay on our Greenville Vital Signs program on Mondays at 6:30. Is it 6:30 p.m., Michael, or 6 o'clock? Michael's checking now. It's also going to be available later today on our Greenville Vital Signs website at which will be online at greenvillevitalsigns.com. And we can also make sure that you have downloaded our new IBX Media app because there is a podcast of this interview. There will be a podcast of this and all of our healthcare interviews on the IBX Media website on the Greenville Vital Signs icon. So have you guys downloaded the app yet? You need to download it.
I'll do it today. Sounds great.
Good to see you both. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. Good to see our buddy Brian from ECU Health Marketing here as well. Our guests have been Dr. Maggie Clifton, who is medical director of the Home Health and Hospice at ECU, and Scottie Gaskins, Senior Administration of Population Health at ECU Health.